Harry Potter is regarded as one of the biggest franchises in the world, starting all the way back in 2001 and ending the franchise in 2011, having made 8 movies in total. These are absolute solid, so this is going to be very hard for me to choose. Also, just want to clarify that these do not include the Fantastic Beasts movies, so without a doubt, let's get into the rankings. So ranking in at worst to best, we start in the last position in 8th with Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, as this movie is clearly the weakest in my opinion. You can argue amongst yourselves, but most Harry Potter fans would probably say this one is probably the weakest out of them all, as it feels more like a gap filler and a build up to the Deathly Hallows movies, as this one is basically just a fucking mess, as people would say. As you had the underwhelming stuff going on with Snape, as he is revealed as a Half-Blood Prince. However, this felt really underwhelming and very like a paper bag in the wind. It just went by and it was like, oh, that it? You know what I mean? And I suppose it was overshadowed by Dumbledore's death, in which was one of the saddest deaths we've ever seen on Harry Potter. And upon that as well, you had some really cool flashbacks as well with Tom Riddle and Voldemort and how he was at school. But other than that, this movie felt really weak, hence why it's bottom of the tier list. So in 7th place then, in the second to last area, is in fact Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. As, yet again, this seems like another gap filler film, and I do enjoy watching all of them, but there is certain ones that are not as solid as the others, in which is this one. As this one basically sees the build up to Harry and Voldemort in the main finale of Part 2. However, before they can get to that point, they must kill and destroy all these Horcruxes, in which for most of this movie they're fucking around with this locket trying to destroy it, and they don't know how to until they figure out that they need the Sword of Gryffindor with the basilisk venom, if I can speak, to destroy this. And it seems like there's a lot of fuckings around in between this. You've got the likes of Harry and Hermione doing a random dance halfway through this movie. It feels great and everything, but I suppose it feels like it drags on a bit. Let's just say that. However, the scene that doesn't drag on a bit is Dobby's death, man. Woo, that fucking struck me, that did. Woo, just as good as Dumbledore's death, if I'm not being a sicko, but you know, it was the most saddest, I would say, out of all the deaths in Harry Potter, and what a way for him to leave and exit. However, in this, there's a lot of live action cool scenes, but barely anything else. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is in number 6 for me, as Goblet of Fire is just one of those movies where you see the franchise taking a different direction. It's becoming darker, and that the characters have aged like that over a movie. As you see most of the time Hermione just bitching at Ron for whatever and bitching at Harry, and then Ron's being a complete dick most of the time, being a bellend, and it's just sort of like, I don't need this. Get back to Harry Potter 1, 2 and 3 where they're nice to each other. Bit of peace and love, man, instead of calling each other fucking posh dickheads, and not saying dickheads, but you're saying like fucking posh and all this shit. And it's just sort of like, alright, they're gonna hate on each other because they're teenagers and shit like that. And it just seemed that Hermione was never happy, as she was always moody. That was the takeaway from this. Even though there were some great parts in this movie, it still goes in 6th because it gets a little boring in the middle with the lake quest and a few of the other things. It just seemed like it drags on a little bit, but I suppose the positives is that Voldemort comes back at the end, in which was huge, with Peter Pettigrew, you know, bringing him back to life, and so many other things as well, with Cedric Diggory's death, which was another big death within this movie and within as a whole. And I just think this movie would have been so much better if they didn't age the characters just like that. And Mad-Eye Moody was in a chest through all the movie, but you didn't realise because Mad-Eye Moody was stood there as it was Barty Croucher Jr., who was in his possession, and he was the guy that really put Harry's name in the cup, and there was a bit of mystery going on as well. So I guess it was decent. In fifth then is no other than Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and I know many will probably disagree with me on this, but it just seemed quite entertaining in the last act of this movie. But the first two acts weren't not good. They were just not as exciting as, because we all knew what was coming up, and we was like, get to the main point, and it just was like, we're gonna drag it out, because we just dragged it out in part 1, and all I want to see is a big boss battle. Get to the point, because we waited 7 fucking movies for this finale. Get to the point. Anyways, there was also some great positives. The Snape's death. Again, another Harry Potter legend as such, and great character, gets killed off, and we all thought he was a dick for like 8 movies, until he found out that he was a dick to Harry because he reminded him of James Potter, and James Potter basically stole the woman he loved. And it was like, oh shit, and Harry was like, oh shit, I realised now why you were being a dick to me for that long, but you could have just said something sort of like, oh, I did not know that, but he left it bottled up inside of him all this time. It weren't until Harry nicked his tears and went and viewed them himself, when he realised he was in fact a Horcrux, in which was the biggest like surprise out of everything in this movie. It was filled with surprises and things, but this was mainly collecting the rest of the Horcruxes and the final boss battle. And it was great to see the likes of Neville Longbottom have their heroic moment as well, as he killed the last Horcrux in the movie, as he killed the snake, and then Harry and Voldemort just had a battle between them. Even though Harry technically gets killed in this movie and jumps back up, I suppose it was decent, but just not as good as in the 4th final movies that are left. So in 4th then is in fact Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix, as this is clearly one of the better Harry Potter movies. However, for me this fails to top the original 3 in my opinion. Moving on to the movie then, this is such an incredible movie, as we see the likes of Harry actually become a leader in this movie, as we see him create Dumbledore's army, as Umbridge is seemingly not believing in the fact that Voldemort has returned and fails to teach any actual magic, in which is why Harry decides to teach students how to defend themselves. Although this movie also sees another one of the most upsetting deaths in the franchise, as Harry sees the last member of his family, Sirius Black, killed by his cousin Bellatrix, in which is her first movie in the franchise. Finally then, this movie also brings us one of the best fight scenes of all the movies, with Dumbledore and Voldemort, as we see the two square off in the Ministry of Magic in one of the quickest but best fight, in my opinion, in the entire franchise. So in 3rd was a really hard decision, but I had to pick no other than Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, as this movie starts off the incredible franchise off fantastically. However, the main reason that it isn't top spot is because the movie shows its age at times, seeing the Quidditch moments where it kind of looks quite fake and wouldn't sit up in modern day graphics and things, hence why I put it a bit lower down, whereas the others I think could. However, Christopher Columbus had a hard task of bringing the Harry Potter book 1 to life, and it worked magnificently, and the story is so compelling and fantastic that this is easily one of my favourite Harry Potter movies to watch. Furthermore, I feel that this has more of a kid-like feel to it, as the majority of the later Harry Potter movies seem to get quite dark, and this movie always seems quite a happy, relaxing movie to sit and watch, especially if you're a kid. Also in this movie, we are introduced to Harry, Ron and Hermione for the first time, which was incredible to see the characters come to life, just how we had pictured in the books. Furthermore, this movie is probably the most relatable to many, as it seems that it's how most people would feel on their first time at a new school, and that people are trying to get along with one another, and just seemed like a really cool feel-good movie as a whole. In 2nd place then is Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I know many people would probably disagree with this opinion, but I think this is clearly the one for me where it goes in 2nd. And obviously Chamber of Secrets is 1st, which many will disagree with, but you know, life in it. But yeah, this one seems to take a darker turn to the franchise, in which we all love, and seems like the one where Michael Gambon as Dumbledore seems to escalate into this darker world of Harry Potter, and it doesn't help the fact that Sirius Black, who's a murderer, who's escaped, and he's coming to I'm getting my words mixed up here, but coming to Hogwarts, and yeah, it's like took the seriousness properly in this one. I wouldn't say it's as dark as like 4 and 5. However, this is the stepping stone in between the second movie and the fourth movie in terms of darkness. Not only that, but this movie has several twists and turns as Harry thinks that his parents come back to help him fight against the Dementors in a certain scene. However, that isn't the case. It's actually him as they turn back the times and everything, and that's an incredible moment. And just seeing Harry overcome his fear of Dementors, because at the start of the movie he's shit scared, and then later on it's just sort of like you can overcome anything if you put your mind to it, basically, and which was great to see. And yeah, as a whole, this movie was fantastic. Lupin was fantastic. Sirius Black, Gary Oldman's first movie here, and he was also fantastic. And it's a bit of a mind boggler, in terms of what actually happens in the time traveling thing. As soon as you get your head around that, it's a fantastic movie and a classic. So in at number 1 then is obviously Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets, the second movie, as this is my all-time favourite one of my all-time favourite movies, and my all-time favourite Harry Potter movie, as this is incredible, and it's probably filled with the best moments, as it has a bit of mystery in there, has a bit of funniness, youth in there as well, and I just thought it all fit together nicely. As the mystery was who opened the Chamber of Secrets, because it makes you think at some point that it's Hagrid, and it's like, it's not Hagrid, surely not. And then it's like, oh, is it Malfoy? And then they find out it's not Draco Malfoy, and then they find out right at the end that it's actually Tom Riddle who was behind the opening of the Chamber of Secrets, which was Voldemort when he was at school, basically. And you've got to see a bit of an insight to what Voldemort was like at school before even Voldemort even comes onto the screen, in which was phenomenal. And yeah, I thought every moment seems to be massive, and this is one of those movies I love to watch, as this movie has Richard Harris in his last movie as Dumbledore, as he dies, and I think it's during filming or just after filming, and so it was great just to have him have his final moment on screen. And I thought he was the best Dumbledore. I think I've already mentioned that earlier on in this ranked movie thing, but I just thought Richard Harris was the best Dumbledore, as he brought this element of togetherness and this element of joy in his Dumbledore, rather than Michael Gambon's dark Dumbledore, in which I represent, and I still go by the fact that Richard Harris could not have done the later Harry Potters, even if he was still alive, as it took a dark turn and he was so joyful and happy it wouldn't have worked. However, if you go and Gambon in the first 2 movies, they would have felt dark as well, so I'm glad in a way there was 2 different Dumbledores and it worked, in my opinion. And that was the main thing for me, and loads of shit happened in this with the basilisk and everything like that. So if you've enjoyed this ranking, this movie ranking of Harry Potter movies, and you would like to see reviews, let me know down in the comments down below. Also, let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my rankings. Also, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be alerted to all the new content this channel creates, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.